Welcome, everybody, once again, another episode of B&B Hockey Talk. I'm Aaron Bloss with my co-host, Mr. Matt Balzer. Lots of hockey since we last talked from Friday, and we're going to start it off with the Pacific Division today. Usually we start on the East Coast. Today we're going to start on the West Coast because the Los Angeles Kings have made a coaching change, and former Canucks coach Willie D back in the NHL.
I know, yeah. I did not see that coming. Out of all the guys they could have hired, Willie D. So I would expect Jason Magna and Lyndon Bay to become LA Kings very, very soon. But yeah, LA's just been awful. I think they have the least goals for this year. They've only scored 28 goals in 13 games so far this year, and have given up 45. So it just, and I think going into that last game against the Rangers, their entire team had combined for 60-something points. The entire roster only 60-something points, and it was the same amount that Landeskog, McKinnon, and Rantanen have combined just by themselves to start this season. So if you want to see, if you want to know how bad it's been in LA, yeah, it's been bad, and I feel sorry for Desjardins. And they also hired Marco Sturm as an assistant coach. They're coming into a really tough situation. If you are a Kings fan, just something to look to Desjardins' style is, well, he did like balancing like the four lines, but I think the one thing that could be sometimes frustrating with Desjardins is that he wouldn't mix up his lines. So as the season went along, as like the lines got stagnant, not producing points, he was really reluctant to mix the lineup up. So hopefully he's learned from that, especially with the Kings roster. Maybe he'll start to switch things around to try to get a boost going. But I'm interested to see Marco Sturm, what he brings, because coaching the German national team at the Olympics and over the past few years, he's had a lot of success there, and I'll be interested to see if he can spark some of those offensive guys in LA.
LA Kings, of course, you mentioned, on pace for 176 goals this season. Not even close to 200, unfortunately, but hopefully they pick that up. The rest of the Pacific Division, I mean, Arizona continues to be red hot. They haven't played as many games as a lot of the other teams, but if the playoffs started today, we'd have 3 Canadian teams. What do you think about that?
I know, it's just crazy. Like Calgary continues to roll. They're in first place in the Pacific. I believe they lead the NHL in third period goals. I believe they have 28, I believe, so far, and 5 third period comeback wins as well. And the Vancouver Canucks, as we saw on Friday night, it was the Elias Pettersson show. Putting up 2 goals and 5 points as him and Brock Besser put on a show. And even Colorado with McKinnon and Rantanen, all those guys in that high-scoring 7-6 overtime win. But Pettersson's just solidifying that Calder Trophy one day at a time. He was named the second star of the week today. I believe Monahan was the first star, and the third star.
Tampa Bay.
Yes, Braden Point was named the third star of this week, and the Canucks have won 3 straight games, as well as they head out to start a 6-game road trip tomorrow out east. And the Edmonton Oilers in third place, they're 8-4-1, just 1 point back of the Canucks. They continue to roll. They're 7-2-1 in their past 10 games, as McDavid continues to rock and roll. I believe he has his 10th goal tonight, getting one so far in their game today. And Cam Talbot continues to play well. Mikko Koskinen 3-0 so far to start the season. After I added some question marks about a bit of a rough preseason in net, but he's really come up strong, especially that huge glove save he had against Detroit. If you haven't seen that, make sure to take a look on our Facebook page for that save. It was just crazy good. But Yeah, we got 6 out of the 7 Canadian teams in a playoff spot right now, which is just I don't think many people saw that coming at this time of the season.
That would be an absolute dream come true if that happened. Mentioning the Canucks, they are on that 6-game road trip. Starting with Detroit tomorrow, injury news, Chris Tanev may make his comeback that night, and Brock Besser, again, listed day-to-day and not likely to play because of that lingering groin injury, which is unfortunate because, like you mentioned, Besser and Pettersson, there was so many people that watched that game on Friday night, and they left just whether you're a Colorado fan or a Vancouver fan, it was a fun hockey game. And as a Vancouver fan, man, Nathan McKinnon is the real deal. That kid is so fast. And between his speed, Rantanen's passing, and Landeskog's ruggedness, that line is definitely my either 1 or 2 in the NHL. It's a toss-up between them and the Marchand, Pastrnak, Bergeron line. But yeah, that line was so fun to watch, and it was fun listening to the Colorado announcers as well, trying to describe Pettersson. Of course, he scored. He set up that goal off the end boards to Brock Besser, which nobody's seen before except Canuck fans from the Sedins. And Henrik was asked about it. He said it was patented and that they're going to have to pay up. Well, he laughed. So moving on to the Central Division, the Nashville Predators. Pekka Rinne gets a nice little 2-year deal. They've now got both their goalies locked up for the next 2 years at $6.5 million cap hit for both goaltenders. And it might be a great transitional for UC Soros to take over after those 2 years with Rinne as the backup. But wow, what a move by David Poile and the Nashville Predators.
I know, Matt. It's just like this guy just continues to get like great deal after great deal done for the Nashville Predators. Like getting Pekka Rinne at $5 million a year. I know he's getting up there in age at 36 years old, but he's making $7 million right now. So to get knock off $2 million off that deal for the next 2 years, that's just great. Especially with at the end of this season, they can start to talk terms with Roman Josi on a new contract, and Yossi's only making $4 million right now. So, he's going to get paid around that PK Subban type of money on that back end. But yeah, they probably got the best goaltending duo in the NHL. I believe Rinne coming back has 2 straight wins, is 5-1-0, and has a .948 save percentage. And Saros is 6-2-0 when filling in for Rinne this year with his injuries. So just 2 great goaltenders, and they continue to rock and roll as they continue to lead the NHL in points. They're now 11-3-0, 22 points, and a +17 goal differential so far this year. And Roman Josi also got the only goal against Boston on this weekend, and that was his 300th career point. Only the 3rd Nashville Predator defenseman to do it. The only other ones are Shea Weber and Kimmo Timonen.
Well, Pekka Rinne came back off the IR there, signed a new deal, and then shut out the Tampa Bay Lightning. That was, to me, one of the best hockey games this weekend, even though it was low scoring. Man, Nashville looks good. And they are putting up the points now and starting to spread the standings. Minnesota, Winnipeg, Colorado are clumped in right behind Nashville there. And, man, I can't say enough about the Rantanen, Landeskog, and McKinnon line. But any more thoughts or news on – actually, yeah, Winnipeg Jets had a suspension from the Finland. Why don't you fill us in with that?
Yeah, so Brendan Lemieux in their second game against Florida in Finland had a headshot against Vincent Trocheck. He got ejected from the game for that hit, and the league suspended him 2 games today for that hit. And I think that's it's his first suspension, and for the incident, like Trocheck wasn't hurt, but if you watch that hit, that could have been a whole lot worse than it could have been. So good on the league. But I think something that I saw that wasn't brought up as much was the Sven Baertschi headshot that he took getting concussed. It sort of looks sort of like the same thing, except Berchi just didn't have the puck. So I think you would like to see a bit more consistency. I saw Berchi's agent had some comments on the hit, but yeah, good. It was a good suspension on the league. But yeah, nothing more to follow up. And following up on the Minnesota Wild, they've actually been one of the quietest, hottest teams in the NHL. They're 7-2-1 in their past 10 games. I think the Canucks loss is only their most recent of late. But I think that top line, Eric Stahl got his 400th career goal, and also in the division, Chicago Blackhawks captain Jonathan Toews got his 300th career NHL goal.
Let's move to the Atlantic Division, where the three teams that we thought would be in the top three are. But if playoffs started today, believe it or not, the 4th and the 5th seeds would both be in. In other words, the Buffalo Sabres would be in the playoffs instead of the Washington Capitals.
I know.
Am I reading this right? Like, how Buffalo lost the game this late last week, and then, of course, they had the absolute blowout on Saturday, winning against Ottawa 9-2, and then they went ahead and lost last night. What is this team going to be for real, or are they just a 500 team that's having consistency right now?
Yeah, it's like if you look sort of like at that middle to the bottom of the Eastern Conference, everybody's sort of around 500. So it's like all those teams, it's like, oh, they'll win a game, they'll lose a game. So Buffalo's sort of been just ahead of that pack. I know Washington's played a couple fewer games than Buffalo. So I would see if Washington wins a couple games, then they could be moving up into that playoff position. But Carolina's just fallen flat in that division. I think they are 3-6-1 in their past 10 games after that just massive hot start where they flew up to the first place in the Metropolitan. But getting back to the Atlantic, the Tampa Bay Lightning had a great comeback win against the Ottawa Senators as they lost a couple heartbreakers of late here. I think Braden Point tying the game with 26 seconds last night, and then Yanni Gourde getting the OT winner as they improved to 10-3-1. And Toronto improved to 6-0 on the road this season, defeating Pittsburgh 5-0. Morgan Riley with a couple of goals, and John Tavares had a goal and assist, and Marner a couple assists as well. So it looks like getting back on the road has done some good for the Leafs. And I saw Austin Matthews was out before practice, just doing some skating and shooting around. So that's the update there. Not much on when he's going to be coming back. And the Boston Bruins. I think the big thing here is their goaltending situation again, as Rask and Halak sort of seem to be splitting this year, but Halak's has been just absolutely amazing this year for Boston. He's 4-1-2. He leads the league in save percentage with a .952 save percentage and a 1.45 goals against average. As I think Bruce Cassidy continues to play Halak a little bit more than Rask, who's actually been starting to improve his game of late. But right now, the way Halak's been playing, it's sort of hard to keep him out of the net.
They did bring in Halak, of course, to not overplay Rask as much as they have over the last few years. To me, Tampa Bay is still the class of this division. They seem to be taking off. Toronto stumbled a bit. With Matthews on the horizon of coming back, they will be a clear number 2 or 3. And I think Boston, we both had those 3 as the top 3. Montreal continues to impress me. It'll be interesting to see what they do this week. And then we'll see if Buffalo can hang on to one of those wild card spots as we get near the final 3 quarters of the season. Let's transfer over now to the Metropolitan Division, where those New York Islanders continue to win. And like I said, if the playoffs started today, the Washington Capitals would not be in it, and the New York Islanders have the number 1 seed. How good has this team been, and how good of a coach is Barry Trotz?
I know, yeah. Like Trotz has been doing wonders. I think he just passed Ken Hitchcock for the third most coached games in the NHL. Coaching is 1,537 NHL game,
He's
which
coached
is
a few, apparently.
I know, yeah, just crazy. So I think he knows what he's doing. But those top couple lines for the Islanders, like Josh Bailey, has an 8-game point streak going. Matthew Barzal, even though he's been like a point a game player, he still hasn't gotten to his level from last season. But Anders Lee's been really good. Jordan Eberle's starting to get going. But their goaltending has been the big thing here. Thomas Greiss is 4-2-0 with a 9.44 save percentage and one shutout. And Robin Leonard also 4-2-1 with a 9.28 save percentage and also has a shutout this year. So they've been one of the key reasons why they've been doing so well, and being 6-0 in their against their division, which actually you would think would have been the top division between the Atlantic and the Metropolitan, but so far the Atlantic division's been the stronger out of the two, with only the Islanders and the Pittsburgh Penguins really playing well of late. Like the Columbus Blue Jackets, they have that third spot, but they're only 7-6-1 and have been up and down so far this year. So we'll see how things go. Like Washington, like they're still a little bit farther behind, and the New Jersey Devils, talk about a team that continues to free fall down the standings. They're 4-5-1 in their past 10 games, but I believe of late they've been on some big losing streak, and they continue to tumble down the standings.
Yeah, the New Jersey Devils are in last place in the Metropolitan Division, but they do have way less games than everybody else. So I think once they play some of those games in hand, they may be able to get past the Rangers and Flyers again. Carolina continues to tumble down. Washington, I'm not sure what to make of them yet. They've had some hot streaks. They've had some not so hot streaks, but they also haven't played a lot of games yet. And Pittsburgh hasn't played a lot of games yet. And I still think they're the class of that division at 6-3-3. But of course, they lost the back-to-back games to the Islanders, who are currently in first. If the playoffs started today, get these playoff matchups in the East. We would have the Tampa Bay Lightning against the Buffalo Sabres, Toronto against Boston, Islanders against Montreal, and Pittsburgh against Columbus. Now, is that a blessing in disguise for Montreal or what?
I know, yeah. Like Montreal, it's like I know they had the loss against Tampa Bay on the weekend, but yeah, I think that would be a good matchup if they were to go against the Islanders, and especially with the way Carey Price has been playing so far. Even though his numbers like aren't like at that top elite level yet, he's still been playing really well. And that scoring by committee, as we continue to bring up, I think just about every episode, it continues to go on. Like Max Domi is already up to 7 goals. He had 9 goals in 82 games last year for Arizona, and he's already 2 back of that mark. So it's been a really good revival there in Montreal with the change of scenery. And I think just the way that the type of person that he is, I think he thrives in that big market in Montreal. Jonathan Drouin, who I believe actually finally got a haircut today and shaved off those ugly mullet that he had. Man, that was gross looking.
Yeah, it was getting pretty bad.
Yeah, but yeah, I believe he has a goal tonight. But yeah, it's like as long as they can continue to go, especially with the rest of the Eastern Conference, with all those teams outside of the playoffs not providing any consistency with their play so far this season. If they can stay at this pace, they look like they might be a playoff team so far.
I didn't mention it, but the playoff matchups in the West would be the Nashville Predators against the San Jose Sharks, Minnesota against Winnipeg, Calgary against Colorado, and Vancouver against Edmonton.
It's been a while since we've had an all-Canadian matchup, especially with some of those Alberta teams. Like I know the Canucks had the Flames in that first year that Desjardins coach, but it's been a while, at least out west, that we've had an all-Canadian matchup.
It's fun to look at. I know we're a long ways away, but it is kind of amusing to look at where we're at with that. But the 3 stars of this week, we mentioned it already in case you didn't hear us. Basically, it was Sean Monahan, number 1 star of the Calgary Flames, Elias Pettersson of Vancouver, and Braden Point of the Tampa Bay Lightning was number 3. Final words and thoughts from Matt before we end today's show.
Yeah, just a couple notes here. Some injuries. The Philadelphia Flyers, Michael Nov.5th is back on IR as their goaltending carousel continues. I believe they called up goaltender Alex Leon today, so that they could be up to their fourth string goalie already this season. Cam Fowler scoring a hat trick last night for the Anaheim Ducks. He became only the second defenseman in NHL history in the regular season and the playoffs to score all 3 of his team's goals in one game and the overtime winner. The only other guy to do it was Eric Desjardins in the '93 playoffs in Game 2 versus LA, where he had all 3.
I remember that game.
Yeah,
was on fire.
So that's a
Rudy.
just a crazy stat there that it's only happened twice. I'm not sure if any of you guys saw the Brad Marchand incident in Nashville. I posted the video. At first, I thought Marchand was just trying to dive to show a penalty, but right before that, Sissons had actually did the head snap back, trying to draw a high sticking call, which did get called. So Marchand was giving him crap, just falling to the ice or whatever, and Marchand ended up getting a misconduct out of that, which I found pretty funny. Yeah. And I'm trying to remember. I had one. Oh yeah, and the San Jose Sharks. I think we didn't mention them as much, but Timo Meier has had an underrated hot start to the season. 11 goals in 14 games to start the season. As I believe he's been playing on that top line with Thornton and Pavelski so far to start this season. So just one guy to keep an eye on to see if he can continue that. But yeah, only 5 games tonight. The highlights will be posted late tonight as I have my own hockey game tonight. So you'll get all the goals and if there's any big saves or hits tonight later this evening. And yeah, and then the Canucks are in Detroit tomorrow. Start time's at 4:30 Pacific. We'll see if the Canucks can. I think in a 6-game road trip, if they can go 500 with the roster and the injuries that they have, I'll be pretty happy with that.
No Fortnite, no problem. Remember to like and share us on Facebook and subscribe to us on YouTube. We appreciate all the comments. We appreciate all the following. And thank you, everyone. We will see you guys on Wednesday.